Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in another one of my shows. William Wallace for America. With me today is State Representative Dodi Horton. Representative Horton, thank you so much for coming on with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, truly.
Well, the honor's all mine. I love the things that you're doing up there in Baton Rouge, and I was so excited when you agreed to come on the show with me to talk about your legislation for this year. And I always tell everybody I always like to do the mundane stuff. I like your district, about you, and I say that openly because while a lot of people know you, there's still a lot of people that like to get that reacquainted to know where people are from, where your legislation is. Where's your district anyway?
My district is in Bossier Parish, the
So,
only parish that grew 10.06% north of I-10. Very proud of Bossier Parish and the local governments, and work so well together. And we have wonderful people and wonderful schools, and it's a great place to be.
why do you think your parish grew so much?
I believe because it's safe.
Yeah,
We have a
the rest of the
low
state's
crime rate,
losing by that much, right?
sir.
The rest of the state's dropping by, I say 10%, but they're dropping a lot, whereas you
Well,
guys picked up people.
yeah, they are, especially up north. In Shreveport, we even lost a Senate seat and a state rep seat that actually came into Bossier too. So the population has been in Shreveport and Bossier has been no, excuse me, in Shreveport's been down, but Bossier Parish at the same time has grown exponentially. We have Barksdale Air Force Base, which is the largest employer. We have a great school system and wonderful, again, local government, parish government that work well together. And it's just a wonderful place to be. Our law enforcement officers with our sheriffs and our city policemen are extremely tough on crime. We don't tolerate it, and we have low crime rate. And we just respect one another. It's just really a good place to be. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to represent my district.
Yeah. When I was looking at your district map, I mean, you're kind of confined to a parish, right? Like
Yes,
most of
yes.
the parish. So, so do you think people are moving in from surrounding parishes because of a low crime rate, or do you think the influx you guys are getting in Bossier Parish is because there's some sort of an industry or businesses that are hiring more people?
Well, I believe that it's a combination. They're coming into from the local areas to Bossier because of our low crime rate. Shreveport is one of the top three crime rates in the nation. I mean, out of the top 10 most dangerous places, three cities are in Louisiana, and one is Shreveport. And so I'm hoping with the new mayor in Shreveport administration, they'll be able to get a handle on that. And so, and we're the opposite. We have a low crime rate and tough on crime. It's not a revolving door in Bossier Parish, so that's a blessing. We have Cyber Innovation Center with a partner with Global Strike Command, which is a really growing, I guess I say, profession to be in.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
yeah, our community college is like the crown jewel, we believe, of Louisiana. It's Bossier Parish Community College, and they offer the classes that complement our cyber community. And it's just a lot going on, and it's
Yeah,
exciting.
I love hearing about community colleges. People don't want to call them. Some people don't want to call them VOTEC. Some people don't want to call them trade. Everybody calls them a little bit something different, but I think that they're one of the most unique things that we can have in our communities and for our state, and it's a way to build up that workforce. You know,
Absolutely.
so let's. What did you do before you became a representative?
I was a legislative assistant for Representative Henry Burns for 8 years. Wonderful man, very kind, and good conservative.
So you were actually working behind the scenes, so you saw firsthand what was going on.
Yes, he allowed me to be as equally as involved as he was, and it was a ministry for he and I. First and foremost, you take care of your constituents, and that is what we carry on in my office today. I have an assistant, Don O'Neill, does a fantastic job. It's a ministry for us,
Yeah.
And above all else, we're here to be a liaison between any state department or issue they're having with the state and our people. So,
I find it interesting. I read the Twitter comments and the Facebook comments sometimes, and sometimes people criticize the elected officials that outwardly talk about ministry or their faith. And I got to tell you, I'm going to say this publicly for anybody who's listening on that, is that I would much rather a representative or elected official that involves their faith and their beliefs and being driven and guided instead of narratives and ideologies.
I thank you for that. When God saved me in 1993, my life's never been the same, and He put someone like me in this position, and I want to glorify Him by the way I serve my constituents, honestly, transparently, and to be above reproach. And I'm their voice when I go to Baton Rouge. I take District 9's morals and our deals and our core values, and I fight for them, to maintain them, to protect our personal liberties, and so much more in Baton Rouge. I didn't get elected to bring any administration's desires and their agenda back home. So it doesn't always sit well with even local government. Puts a target on your back at times, but that's the only way I know how to serve. I put the people in there. I'm there to serve them.
We know at least we know that you have good in your heart, and so if you're listening to the people and representing them and being guided by good in your heart, then that's the best way. So let's talk about how you're guided. Let's talk about how the last legislative session. What was it in the last session, or what was your crown? I see your crown jewels. Your most prized legislation piece of legislation last session. So let's kind of give people a feel for where you were last session, because then we're going to talk about what you've got in this next session. But give people some ideas on what will happen in the last session.
Well, last session, what we passed became Act 357, and that's to allow our cottage home bakers, people who bake goods at home, to increase their gross annual income. It was $20,000. Now they can earn $30,000. And in what I really was proud of is in the legislature, passed this unanimously, was to allow for hearing loss for our municipal and classified police officers up to 2 years after they retire. It's declared provides for a hearing loss as an occupational disease. And the firefighters have that, and we wanted to add police officers to that. So that's a good benefit that's very worthy. And really what was important, if there's any motorcycle riders out there, ABATE, which is an organization, they brought a bill to add motorcycles to the law that has the same penalties as any other vehicle when someone fails to yield, or if someone infringes on your lane and moves over with the motorcycle. All they would have gotten was a slap on the wrist or $250 fine. But now motorcycles are included in the law with every other vehicle, so the penalties will be much greater. And so that was huge for the motorcycle community, truly. And
is that a protection for them, or to keep them from going over on somebody else's lane?
No, it's protection for them.
Okay.
It's protection for the motorcycle. Someone could have infringed on their lane and hit them and cause death or maim them, and they would, again, they weren't subject to the same penalties as if someone crashed into your car and hurt you or killed someone. So now the penalties are all the same, which they should have been all along.
Isn't it amazing how some of these things you've mentioned sound like common sense? Hearing loss for police officers, people driving rules, and whenever I go to the session and I always see there's 1,000 bills filed or whatever, I go, my gosh, here's these guys like creating more bills and more legislation. What more do we need? What more infringements on our rights do we need? But then when I listen to some of them, like what you're doing, I go, well, okay, that just sounds like common sense to think that we didn't have something like that before. So was there anything else that happened the last session that any other of your legislation that you like to talk about?
Well, last session I filed and presented in committee a parental rights and education bill, and it didn't make it out of committee, but I feel very strongly that it will this year. I've and I'm gonna bring it back this year, and again, it's a bill that we'll talk about when you're ready.
Okay, all right, awesome. That'll be fun. So, anything else from last year to kind of catch up people?
Well, the pro-life bill, working on that together to get that bill passed to where when Roe versus Wade was overturned, our trigger laws kicked in to provide the equal protection under law for our unborn. It was just a wonderful, wonderful day. And so that we're very proud of that. Very proud of redistricting. I served on the committee that did the redistricting, and it was a very, very difficult task.
Oh yeah.
And our chairman, Stefanski, was wonderful, and our staff guided us according to the law perfectly. And we were able to get it done and the congressional maps I was proud that we were able to override the governor's veto, because it was worthy that we followed the law totally when we redraw the lines. And so we definitely were proud of that. So it took a lot of work to get that override. So I'm thankful for all my colleagues for
what I always found interesting with all the redistricting was that while there's an argument that certain groups weren't represented well, in order to make that happen, the lines would have been drawn in such a way that gerrymandering would have had to be done. That would have made it more gerrymandered than reality. And so, with respect to what you said, I think y'all did a good job on that. And thanks for y'all took arrows for that, and you still fought hard, and I'm glad you did.
yes.
So, let's talk about what you got coming up there, Representative. You got some interesting bills coming up that I want to make sure we get covered.
I do. One that I think I just gave pre-file authorization to. I met a young lady, and through her grandmother, and she has a daughter that has many disabilities, and what it was, her mother contracted CMV, which is cytomegalovirus. It's something that if a person that is pregnant gets this viral virus, that she could pass it on to the infant, and which is what happened, but nobody knew what it was. And so what I'm doing with this bill is to mandate that every newborn be tested for CMV, because if you catch it right away, you can start antiviral treatments and prevent most, if not all, of the disabilities that little Journey is suffering from. Her name is Journey and Bailey, and the law will be named after her, because usually it shows up in hearing loss if your child has that's commonly known as CMV virus, and you catch it through, the mother catches it through saliva or urine, but it's kind of like having a common cold. But in the infant, in the newborn, the first thing that shows up is the hearing. They have hearing loss, and her baby Journey did not pass the hearing test, and the people giving the test, they said, well, maybe our machine's just off, and we'll come back and check her, in so many months. And she progressively got worse and worse. And finally, after 8 months, they figured out the diagnosis, and it was too late, because she has, I believe, cerebral palsy. She's blind. She has seizures and total hearing loss. And one of the most beautiful little girls you want to see. But when her mother told me that all of that could have been prevented if we would have tested her at birth, it broke my heart.
Again, this is more common sense that's not practiced enough in government, and I'm glad that you brought this up. But two things come to mind when you talk about this. We talked a few minutes ago about how so many laws are being created, which legislation gets created, but this is an example of good legislation. It's an example of smart legislation. It's not in the books, but it's also a benefit of having the 10th Amendment, to our federal constitution, because if it weren't for the the 10th Amendment, our states would have to would rely on the federal government to create laws like this, where you're representing the people, in Bossier Parish, and you're able to connect with other representatives, representing the people
Right.
in
Right.
the area, and you're able to take it to the state legislature. And because of the 10th Amendment, you're able to create something that brings something home to help the people of Louisiana. And I just think it's smart. So when we talk about all those legislations going through, here's an example of a good one. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it because this CMV is the leading non-genetic cause of hearing loss that infants when they're born that have that. And it's, again, we're going to have a doctor that's an authority on CMV and to come and testify. And the best time to test is at birth. We already test our infants for several other things, and we just want to amend the law to add this to that. So I'm praying that we're successful.
That's a good one. So what else you got coming up for this next session?
Okay, let's see. I'm bringing my parental rights and education bill back, and it's to prevent sexual orientation, gender identity instruction from happening in K through 12 schools. And it states that no teacher, no school employee, or other presenter at school shall engage in the following with students in kindergartens through 12, covering the topics of sexual orientation or gender identity in classroom discussion or instruction in a manner that deviates from state content standards or curricula developed or approved by public school governing authorities. And we in Louisiana, we have teach sex. If your child opts in to sexual education, when I looked at the standards and you can't do that till 7th and 8th grade, never is sexual orientation or gender identity mentioned anywhere in there. And it also is going to address pronouns in the bill too. But I feel,
because I saw somebody mention something about that on a comment earlier. Is that the one that says that you have to address them by their birth pronoun and not their choice of pronoun?
Yes, it definitely. They are addressed by the sex that is on their birth certificate.
Yeah.
And then the bill will say that if the child wants to be called a different name with the parent's permission, then the teacher can. But if it's against the teacher's
religion,
political or religious views, the teacher's not forced to. And so it's really stated plainly. It's simply in the bill. And then I think it's essential that we allow the parents to be guaranteed that when you drop your child off at public school, they will only be taught the approved state standard that the curriculum is developed around, not anyone's ideology, not about anyone's choices in life. This is about the children, not the adult in the room.
It amazes me that we have to create laws and legislation to protect children. Now, granted, there's always the argument that that I've already seen some of the comments, that they want to have children to have the right to go by the pronoun that they choose or whatever. And great, when you're out of school, they do what you want. But when you're in an environment where everybody has to learn why, what's wrong with, and this legislation protects, the right just to be able to teach just what's on the curriculum. And that all that should be being done in school.
I know. I never in my life thought we would be here today, because all the educators that I know, I have a family member that is, my neighbors, my friends, they're very protective of their personal life. They focus on the child. They only have a limited amount of time in that classroom to teach so much, because they're still having to teach to a test. I'll be glad when they can don't have to do that anymore. And so we don't need to taint that with someone's personal views. And so again, this is I want to protect the innocence of our children. I don't think it's,
And what,
too
and
much
what,
to ask.
and what I think the naysayers aren't getting, they see it as an attack on a human's choice, we'll say. However, the problem is if you don't put this firewall up, this stopgap measure up, then give a teacher the right to be able to deviate from the curriculum and go into teaching a narrative or ideology or a belief, or even like in the case sexual orientation. And that shouldn't be up to the teacher to even discuss that. That should be between a parent and a child. And,
Correct.
and to those naysayers, I say this: look, it's no different. You wouldn't want a teacher teaching your child right wing ideology, so to speak, or faith based ideology. So without these measures, with these measures, it protects both sides. It puts a wall that says, "Hey, let's just teach kids education and not ideology or sexual orientation."
Yes, that's not for it's not for anyone outside the home to infringe upon. That's for a parent's right, a guardian's right, and nothing in the bill prevents a child for seeking counseling, for seeking help at school. With the parents, with the parental prior knowledge to get help. That does not prevent this, and also this is no judgment on anyone's lifestyle choice at all.
Right.
It's just don't it's but the classroom's not the place to share it with you. I don't think it's right for a adult to validate their lifestyle choice to a group of third graders and destroying their innocence. That is not what being an educator is about. And I don't know any educators like that. And some people say, well, you're what is that term they use, a solution to a problem? Well, one thing I do know, you have to turn the ship before you hit the iceberg. And
I lost you for a minute there. Can you hear me, Representative Horton?
you still there?
Yeah,
Oh, there
you're there. You're there. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, like I said, and the way I look at it is this: I don't want to look at it as a right wing, a left wing, a Democrat,
No.
Republican, or ideologically speaking. What I agree with is the language that says teach children, and teachers shouldn't have the right to teach anything else other than education. And
Right.
I think if you look at it from both sides, and you tell the people that are against this, say, look, you wouldn't want these teachers teaching children anything faith-based or anything that they don't want them being taught. So,
Right. And when a child brings up a subject, that's off, brings up a topic that's off subject, the teachers just get back right on the subject. I mean, they probably come up, I know, with all kind of different things they want to discuss, but you don't discuss theology in a math class. I mean, the educators, we just need to let them educate, but we do have to protect our children from those few who would like to expand
right.
on what's going on. So again, this is no judgment on anyone else. This is protection of our children.
Our education system, because the
Yeah.
minute you start allowing any kind of education or anything being taught other than the approved education curriculum, you open the door to anything else being taught, things that they might not agree with later. And so I appreciate what you're doing there. You
Thank you. It's not always easy, but doing right is always right.
Well,
And
it's no different than the workplace.
correct,
There's many
correct.
workplaces that they don't want you discussing certain things, to say, hey, the workplace is the workplace. You're not allowed to discuss politics or religion. It's really no different than the workplace, that you can't talk some subject. So
You're exactly right. That's a good point. We take our ethics. We are taught about sexual harassment
mhm,
and improper language, in conversations. But yet we don't think we don't think we should protect our children from the same
right.
improper and non-age appropriate conversations. So unfortunately, the time calls for a legislation like this.
I understand it. Like you said, let's teach them education only. So what's your next piece of legislation? I know it's a fiscal session, but you're
Yes.
still allowed not 5 non-fiscal bills, right?
Right. And I'm working on a few. I haven't I haven't posted yet. So,
Okay.
but I know that you want to talk about my God We Trust bill.
Yeah, they passed that in Texas.
Yes, and in Arkansas, and I can't remember all the states. And what it is, I'm only amending current law to include that they be posted, the poster of the In God We Trust be posted in every classroom, K through 12, and every college that receives tax dollars. I mean, let's look at it. What is a motto? And I looked that up. It's a chosen phrase that encapsulates the beliefs or ideals of a person, of a institution, of our country.
Right.
So that is so important, and I feel it's also a sign of hope for our children to see, when they go in that classroom, that tomorrow will always be another day. And so I think it's really. I had a constituent that asked me to bring this, as well as Representative Jack McFarland. So we co-authored it together, and I look forward to it. It passed unanimously before when it was. I believe it's Senator Barrow that presented it. I think you're the one that told me that.
Yeah.
And so I would see any should be any problem with passing it this way as well.
So what exactly does the legislation do?
It requires that the national. Let me see here.
And I'm glad
It mandates that our national motto is placed in a prominent place, hung in a prominent place in each classroom. And it's not an unfunded mandate. The school is not mandated to purchase these. Any outside group can purchase these and donate them to the school. Kids could, you know, collect money for it, but the school system itself is not responsible for purchasing these. So I didn't want to, all the time you see bills come up that are unfunded mandates for our school boards to have to come up with the money with, and they just can't do that. But so this bill, again, has no fiscal note because the school systems aren't liable or mandated to purchase them.
Yeah, they did this legislation in Texas, and
Right.
businesses from all over donated signs of schools, and it's kind of interesting when you think about it, because it actually provides another way for businesses to get involved in a positive way. If they're donating signs of school, then it puts those schools on the radar, and maybe we get more businesses involved in helping help out our schools in various ways that improve our school systems.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I believe it's a no-brainer. It's teachers can already display the national motto. This is just mandating that every teacher do so and every child to observe it. Whether they want to or not. That's our national motto. And the schools, and it's not a political mandate. It is a motto, and again, I don't see why it would be an issue.
Anything else with that legislation that might be of importance?
I just think
It's just
really.
it's just that simple then.
It really is simple, and it's been challenged. Our national motto has been challenged in court on several occasions. I have all those down with the court always ruling that our national motto, "In God We Trust," is not a religious pushing any certain religion. It's not pushing any political view or coercing you in any way. It's simply a motto that our founder that expresses what our country was founded on.
Yes.
And it's just I just think it's great. And in every challenge, our national motto has survived.
I love this. Well, I think, like I said, I think it's very important, because what's the first thing people do when they get in trouble? They end up praying to God.
I hope so.
so,
I know I do.
yeah, and then our national, with being our national motto, like you said, why shouldn't we be proud of our national motto? Do you have any other legislation that you got for this next session?
I do, but I'm not really free to discuss it yet because it's not.
Hopefully, when you do, we'll have you on again and let you talk about those. But I'm also like to make a note too. You talked about in God we trust. We've talked earlier about the 10th Amendment. I'm always bringing in national issues, but I think that our freedoms in America are under attack.
Oh,
And
yes, yes.
whenever I talk to people on a national level, I always ask them how are our freedoms under attack. And I'm getting some of the most unique responses. No longer are people just saying the First Amendment or the Second Amendment. They're talking about bureaucracies. They're talking
Mhm.
about different rules and regulations that are circumventing Congress because they're going through, like I said, the alphabet agencies. I think that our freedoms are also under attack in Louisiana. How do you feel that our freedoms in Louisiana are under attack? And if you don't, how are our freedoms on a national level under attack? Or are you able to connect it in some way?
Well, absolutely. With COVID nationally and state by state by state, our personal liberties and the ability to choose our own medical treatments was under attack like never before in my lifetime. And shutting down businesses and places that could easily control their environment was and making everybody stay in their homes. I don't think we never did that when we were in Vietnam. I mean, I don't they think I can't remember when in school when I think I was in second grade. You have to hide under your desk, do drills, bomb
Yeah,
drills.
yeah.
We never even were quarantined or placed into into confinement like we were with COVID, and it just stripped us of our confidence and our ability to provide a lot, provide for their families. Mental illness was on the rise. Spousal abuse rose, child abuse rose, and it's just something that I pray we never experience again. But I do know this, that in my district and throughout Louisiana, they will never tolerate their personal liberties being infringed upon again. They
Yeah.
will never have the government's thumb on them again when it comes to saying, yes, I want a vaccine or no, I don't. And I believe with our attorney general, he has fought hard and we've won and won our at when our liberties were infringed upon. And I'm thankful for Jeff Landry for that because he led a lot of these fights and with the Supreme Court. And so, and bringing our protection back, allowing us to be protected when it comes to our personal liberties. But absolutely, if we give them up little by little by little, they'll totally be gone. And I think with COVID, we really came to have a greater appreciation for the freedom and liberty that we have that's with provided for us through that Constitution. The Constitution is real, and that is our foundation, and with our state rights and our federal constitutional rights. And
And
if yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And you brought up another really interesting point that I was eager to jump on here. When you talk about our rights being infringed, you also talked about the side effects. Now, you didn't refer to it as side effects, but I am.
Yes.
The side effects of losing freedom is often violence, or like you said, suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Spousal abuse. There are a lot of when people lose their freedoms and they become caged animals. A lot of negative things happens to our society.
Yes.
You said suicide, spousal abuse, crime goes up because now people feel like a caged animal. They're trying to get loose. That's when bad things happen. So that was a good point, Representative. I appreciate it.
No, I asked my sheriff about that last year, and he told me exactly that all those were on the rise, and it definitely affects your psyche. And our children are just now, I believe, getting reacclimated to school, and the seniors who weren't able to get scholarships in sports. I mean, we had several suicides here. I mean, it was just it's so unnecessary and so sad and so tragic.
With the
Truly.
attacks on freedom, what do you think is the number one thing that we can do to unite on to help protect freedoms in Louisiana and America?
Continue to stand and demand that your elected officials uh, fight against government takeover, against government infringing upon our rights, We want less government intrusion in our lives. People need to understand the more federal dollars you get, the more strings are attached. The states form the federal government, not the other way around. Our state rights, we give up with every federal dollars that we get. Now we need when we have hurricanes, and we need the help with infrastructure. But I believe Louisiana receives more federal dollars per capita than any state in the nation. It's a dangerous thing. States must protect our state rights, and that's the only way to fight the federal government, is state by state by state.
I love it. That's awesome. All right, one last question before we wrap up here, and it's. I know this is part of a longer conversation, but we'll keep it short. Which is, what do you think are the top problems that Louisiana is faced with in the next couple of years, and what do you see as some of the answers? And we can keep that short. Like I said, this is part of a longer conversation, but just kind of where people can keep an eye on the next session and some of the things that we need to work on.
Well, I know crime has got to be addressed. With the I think it was 2017 or 2018 when the Justice Reform Reinvestment Act was passed. I didn't vote for any of that because I knew that with my past experience told me they're going to let out violent criminals, and they did. And you're going to see a legislation come, and it's going to be called Truth in Sentencing. Whenever a victim, they go to court and the perpetrator is told they get 20 years with hard labor. In actuality, with all the good time that they get and different programs, they may serve 3. And before so the families have got to know the truth. When someone's sentenced, when will they really get out? Well, there's a lot of things in that so-called Justice Reinvestment Act that needs to be amended, needs to be changed. Accountability needs to put place back in it, and so crime must be addressed. Out of the top 10 most violent places to live in 3 or cities in Louisiana, Shreveport, I think somewhere in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, that is a telltale sign that what is happening now is not working. So we need to allow our policemen to police and to strengthen the laws that were amended in that Reinvestment Act. I don't think it worked well. And then tax reform. You're going to see in this session, we're going to work on our tax structure. We need to we change a lot of things that we do in order to allow the people to keep more money, to reward hardworking people, not to punish them by making them pay more. So, but people want a low fair flat tax, or, to do away with our state income tax. But when you do that, you have to give up certain things. So that's going to be years in the planning.
Right.
But we need to become a business friendly state again. We have an out migration. We have lost more business investments. Chevron, ExxonMobil, they took their $1 billion and invested it in plants in other states and not in Louisiana. Our tort laws are in the top 5 of the worst states in the nation. So we have a lot of work to do. And I know we can get it done with the right leader, with the right governor. We can do this. I know we can.
I love it. Sounds like you got your eye on the prize there. I love it.
I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful. We need to get out and vote. We need to vote and vote for the person that you feel is going to be the game changer for Louisiana. The time is now. We need a Ron DeSantis in our state, a bold, courageous leader.
I love it. I love the positive thinking. I love the forward thinking, and I love the fact that you got your eye on the problems and you're looking for a solution.
No, I appreciate you, William. Truly.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate that, and thank you. And I'm grateful that we've got a representative like you in the state of Louisiana, because I feel that you're connected to other like-minded people, and together y'all are going to make a difference for us.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for the people that I served, that they elected me. Went unopposed last time, and this time I'll be working hard, and I have one more term to serve, and I'd like, I'm a much better legislator today than I was in 2016. And but standing strong and not selling my district out. It's not easy there in Baton Rouge, but I knew when I came home, I wanted to look my people in the eye and know that I represented their core values, their morals, their desires. And that's what I've done. And that's what I'll continue to do. And it's truly an honor to serve.
You said something I think is really important that we'll end this on. And after in the broadcast, I want to talk to you offline for a second. But one thing you pointed out when you said you're a much better legislator today than you were when you're elected. So my comment on that would be, if people elected you then because they thought they could see that you're a good person and that you're a hard worker with the background experience, now they know that they're elected the exact same person with a lot more experience to be able to get things done and look out for them.
Yes, so under a our conservative numbers, like, they're growing, and we should have a supermajority Republican membership in next term, and it's important to people to understand. For conservatives, under John Bell Edwards, we've been on the defense. We've been defending their small businesses from double taxation, defending our liberties and fighting against CRT. And we've been on the defense, just trying to stop taxation, raising more taxes than any other governor in the state. But he didn't do it alone. He did not do that alone. And I'm thankful to be one of the 25 they labeled the Gang of No, who said no. We must first reform and change the way we govern now inside the state before you go outside and ask the hardworking citizens to pay more. So,
oh wait, we lost you again. Do what you did whatever you did last time to make sure you come back on. I'm hanging on here, though. I know you're not gone forever. Representative, can you hear me? Have we lost you? Representative, seems like we might have lost her for a second there. We were about to be finished up anyway, and I will give her one. Oh, there you are. There you are. Oh, we lost her again. All right. I think we lost her for good that time, everybody. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. In about 13 minutes, we've got Representative Larry Freeman coming on. He's representative up in the Mandeville, Covington area. Check him out. He's been talking about his legislation. Thank you so much for hanging on, and we'll be right back in about 13 or 12, 13 minutes. Thank you.